Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about some Bear stuff, some MLB negotiations, a little basketball, and some more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is going on right now, so don't miss out. Head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, my friend, are you ready for this third winter?
No, not at all. Not even in the slightest. I love the fact that I work hybrid, right? So 2 days in the office, 3 remote. That's a great deal. What is annoying is that ever since I started my new job a few weeks ago, they've decided to have the worst weather. By they, I mean Mother Nature, on the days I have to go to the office. Because, of course, in week 1, we usually do Monday, Tuesday in the office, but we did Thursday. And one of those Thursdays is when it snowed and it took very long to get home. And of course, here's tomorrow, right after it was 70-some degrees. You got to go in the office? Well, here's more snow. Love the timing. It's great.
Yeah, I'm hoping most of it blows to the south and not to the north. It's funny. My mom does not live far from me. I think it's like 17 or 18 miles distance wise, but with traffic and everything, it's like 45 minutes to an hour away. But it's crazy. In those 17 miles, the difference in weather sometimes is ridiculous. Like my mom would be like, oh, we got a hip ton of snow. And I'm like, oh, we just got a dusting, or vice versa. Or, it's several degrees difference in temperature, and it's just crazy from that close of a distance that there's, you see a shift in the weather.
Yeah. The other funny thing too is between all this, you had the warm weather, you're going to have snow. And then, on Saturday night, man, you had some wicked lightning in the sky.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was sitting here. So my daughter and I watched the new Ghostbusters movie, and the whole time, just like the sky was lighting up, and then it would like start pouring rain, and then it would stop raining, and then, some more lightning. And I'm sitting here just watching. I mean, I'd seen the movie before, so I'm more interested in what's going on outside than the movie, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I was watching some TV, and I was just kind of looking at my phone briefly, and I saw the radar image, and I'm like, oh my, here's this giant red wall with a ton of lightning, like graphic. When you see some of those radar images, like you look at an active radar, they have like those little lightning symbols, and the whole front was just covered in lightning symbols. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. So yeah, I mean, it really lit up the sky, and I really think that the fun thing about it is that, hey, we get a nice lightning storm. That's cool. It's at night. You see the lightning even stronger at night. That's cool. Oh, by the way, snowstorm in like 24-ish hours. How awesome is that? Just the extremes from one to another. It's both weird, frustrating, and yet very fascinating. Weather has always fascinated me. So, yeah, what a mix over these past few days. And, the winds, too. It was so windy last night.
Yeah, it felt bad. For Christmas, I got my daughter like an electric scooter. Thing hauls. It goes real fast. But it's you got to have better weather to ride it around, and so she hasn't really had much of a chance to ride it because it's Chicago in the winter. It's terrible. So yesterday, she got home from a dance competition kind of late. So I was like, we can ride it tomorrow. I'll charge it and it'll be ready to go. And I didn't know. I just looked at my phone app and it said that today the high was going to be like 60 something. I'm like, oh, okay, that's still warm enough. I didn't realize that I guess I should have thought about it, but I didn't realize that the high would be at like midnight and it would just drop consistently until like noon. Because when I went outside in the morning, let the dog out, it was like, 30 degrees. And I was like, uh-oh. So luckily it warmed up a little bit this afternoon. Could take the kid with the electric scooter, but the weather is just nuts.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because one day you got to go out and you got to warm up your car. The next day you drive your car with air conditioning and or the windows down. And let's be real, the feeling of driving with your windows down is one of the best feelings ever. And then you got to go back to warming up your car before you leave again.
Chicago giveth, Chicago taketh away.
And I just cleaned all the salt and crap off my car too. So, that it's gone now. And it's like, well, here's more weather where that's going to build up. I mean, hopefully it's not going to accumulate like it did, all those months of winter. But I would love it if this is the final stretch of snow. I'm not counting on it, but you get it Monday, you get it Friday. And then after that, everything just ends. That would be a perfect world for me. But
it was so nice, after being 70 something degrees yesterday and then raining last night, that there was no remnants of snow. It was just all gone. And I was like, oh man, that would I could even handle the cold because the snow is gone. But nope, here comes again. And it's not supposed to be that warm at all. So not warm enough for it all to melt away. So we're going to be stuck here with stupid snow on the ground for God knows how long.
Well, it's kind of the worst. And because, I like to go on walks and I like to be outside in my free time. And when it's this time of year where the temperature is between like the 30s and the 50s, so it's like melt, freeze, melt, freeze, melt, freeze. And then you have the snow that's still there. It's not like huge piles of it, but the snow is still there and it gets all muddy and gross. And because of the melting and the freezing and the back and forth with that, everywhere you step that isn't concrete is just either dirty snow or just a mud trap, like just complete dirt and mud. The grass is still dead. And there are areas too where if it's just warm enough, and the sun is out, where enough snow melts along the sidewalk that it basically floods the sidewalk. And you either have to try to walk through the water or you have to walk around it where it's all just mud.
I saw a news report where the reporter was standing and there was a big, gross, melted snow, dirty water pile, and a car drove through it and just drenched the reporter.
Ooh.
It was kind of funny, but I think we've all been there to some degree. So you realize how much that sucks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that is so gross, too, because, if you're getting splashed to drive by, it's more than just water. There's mud. There's some other liquid in there that could have seeped its way, like antifreeze or oil or, whatever was lying on the side of the sidewalk or the street. That's not something you necessarily want sprayed on you.
Bills fan puke.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Why would you even put that image in my head? Getting drive-by sprayed with Bills fan puke.
I mean, after their playoff loss, yeah, I could see that. It's like trying to walk by and just somebody just.
Oh man, in that case, give me the freaking dirty water. I'd take that over Bills fan puke any day of the week.
So do you mind if we start with the Bears?
Sure.
There's not a ton going on, but there's just like these little nuggets that keep popping up with topics, and I kind of want to touch on them. The first one is I think it was Schefter that broke the news that the Dallas Cowboys plan to cut Amari Cooper, which doesn't, it's not surprising because they are stuck with some big contracts that they can't move, namely their running back. And they have CeeDee Lamb still, and Amari Cooper is due quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So not surprising. And it has nothing to do with him not being a good wide receiver, because he's a very good wide receiver. And I think he's only like 27 years old. So you're still getting him in his prime. And several other reports have linked the Bears as one of the 4 teams very interested in Amari Cooper. Like, you know, I had some people ask me my opinion about going after Amari Cooper, and they're kind of complicated, my feelings. Like, would I like to see Amari Cooper on the Bears? Absolutely. I think Justin Fields would love being able to throw to Amari Cooper. I think the rest of the division would be very upset if the Bears got Amari Cooper. My concern is, while the Bears do have a fairly decent amount of salary cap space, they also have a lot of holes they need to fill. And Amari Cooper is going to cost some money. And my concern, if this was any of the last 3 years, you're like, okay, well, that's just what a top flight wide receiver costs. But this year, there's quite a few names as far as wide receivers available in the free agent market that are bigger names. Plus, the depth of wide receiver in this draft is big. Like, I would probably say there are 7 wide receivers that are first round grade picks. So there's a lot of talent. And if you go to the first 2.5 rounds, there's a significant number of wide receivers that are available. So I don't think I would pony up huge money for Amari Cooper, but I'm going to stand pat on what I said, or I've been saying, is if you could get Amari Cooper for like 15 million, worth it. But I don't know if I'm willing to commit more than 13 to 15 on a free agent wide receiver right now. If you were only a wide receiver away, all in. But this team has a lot of needs, and I would definitely be in on talking with him. And until the very end, I would be checking on terms and, what sort of years and numbers they're throwing out there. But if you could get him for 15 million a year, which I don't think is, he's probably expecting a ton more than that, but I don't know if teams are going to be jumping at the opportunity to pay Amari Cooper that kind of money. I think some of these wide receivers are going to get a reality shock when they don't get all this money thrown at them, because there's a lot of options.
Yeah. So just for the record, he was going to be owed $22 million in cap space with the Cowboys next year. So that's $6 million dead cap, $20 million cash deal. So would have been a $22 million cap hit for the Cowboys in 2022. Would have been the same in 2023 and 2024. This is according to Spot Track. He signed a 5-year, $100 million deal, and this was part of that deal. So it's probably realistic to expect him to want $20 million at least. Whether he's going to get that, like you said, we'll see. But I think he's going to be looking for $20 million plus dollars. I mean, he made $22 million last year. He was $22 million cap hit for the Dallas Cowboys. And you look at the cash details. Again, this is according to Spot Track. So, $20 million last year, 22 million hit. This year, 20 million yearly cash, 22 million cap hit with the Cowboys. So he's going to want some money. And to your point, the Bears have a lot of holes to fill. They are not just one wide receiver away. They're multiple wide receivers away. It's not like you have 3 guys that are 2, 3, and 4, and you just need that number 1. You need a heck lot more than that. Basically, you just have your number 2 in Darnell Mooney, because I think Darnell Mooney is as high as a number 2 and no lower than a number 2, because I don't think he's quite a number 1, but he's got the talent and the abilities. He's shown enough to be a number 2. So you need a number 1, and you need more guys below Darnell Mooney. You need a lot, and that's just the wide receiver position alone.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of holes in this team. So, like I said, is if the market cools on wide receivers like it did with running backs, and it's not the same thing, but with the sheer volume of wide receivers available through free agency and through the draft, and the number of teams that have cap issues, if by chance, that's the deal, he's the best deal you could get, I'm happy to sign him in that $15 million range.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I don't see the value there.
And look, let me just be very clear. If we just put money aside, if money was no object, if circumstances, there was no concern for how much you were making because of cap issues, I know the Bears don't really have cap issues, but you're under a salary cap and you have a lot of holes to fill. But, if that wasn't a concern, if you just wiped away and you just looked on the surface, would I love to have Amari Cooper on the Bears? Absolutely, I would. He's 27 years old. He's in his prime. He would be amazing with Justin Fields, like you said, but it's a little more complicated than that. And like you said, there's more than just Amari Cooper on the market for wide receiver this year.
Yeah, there's a ton of wide receivers, and we haven't hit the point where the teams have to put their franchise tags on players yet. So, obviously, Davante Adams is going to get franchise tagged, and I say that he may not be on the Packers this year, but they're absolutely going to franchise tag him. And I think it depends on if Aaron Rodgers decides to move on. The Packers are probably going to trade Davante Adams.
And it's probably going to be any minute now we're going to hear. It's based on the reports. You could be listening to the show and Aaron Rodgers might have made his decision already. I wouldn't be surprised if we heard it Monday morning or Monday afternoon. I think they wanted to have the decision, or at least the rumor was he was going to make it by Tuesday. So we'll see.
But it makes sense for the Packers to throw the franchise tag on Davante Adams, because
of course,
if Aaron Rodgers is coming back, it gives you a little bit more time to negotiate something long-term. And if Aaron Rodgers is not coming back, it allows you to trade the rights to him. And what is I think the penalty if you sign somebody that's on a franchise tag, it's like 2 first-round picks or something. But if you trade it, obviously it'll be less than that. But still, for basically nothing, he's a free agent, and you're probably going to get a first-ish round pick for him, or second-round pick. Like, that's still a lot for a guy that's not even under contract with you.
Right. Absolutely.
So absolutely, I expect Davante Adams to be franchise tagged. Some of the other wide receivers, I don't think so. But like I said, there's so many, big name free agent wide receivers that, you look at the list of the drafted players, there's a lot of talent that's going to be flying around this offseason.
Yeah. You look at the situation and you say, okay, well, if you plan to use draft picks on wide receivers, you could get another few in free agency because you're not going to use all your picks on wide receivers, but you need to use. I think you could argue that you need to use the first pick you have on a wide receiver. I could also see the argument for an O lineman. I could definitely see that too. I think either O line or wide receiver you have to take with your first pick. And, there's people speculating too. Can the Bears trade down? Will they trade down?
That was one of the things I wanted to talk about is, I think when people are like, oh, they trade down, you go from 39 to 45 and you pick up a pick. Not really. I think at that point, you're probably going to be getting offers of, a next year's pick, and you're moving significantly down and picking up like, 2 picks this year and then 1 next year, where you're not seeing the full value. My concern with pick moving down this year is if they had a first round pick, I would be all in. But the big talent pool, the biggest talent pool I see in this draft is probably like the best value is in that 15 to 60 range. And right now they're at 39. So if you move too far back, you're towards the back end of that and you're not taking full advantage of that opportunity. I just honestly, I probably stand pat at that 39 pick unless things go haywire and you are expecting a guy to be there and he's off the board, and it leaves you reeling a little bit. Then you know what, trade back, collect yourself, and get back to it, because a lot of the draft is, it's like a game, and if all of your expectations and your plotting and your planning as a guy to be available, and somebody jumps up and takes him, it leaves you, it's not like setting auto draft on your fantasy football league where you just the next guy up is, you plan that way, but sometimes you get thrown for a loop by things that happen, or trade that you were expecting to come through that didn't go through, and you need to recollect yourself. So honestly, I would try to stay at that 39 pick. I just don't think you're going to get as good of value as you would otherwise. If they had that 7 pick this year, if they didn't trade it for Justin Fields, I would have been screaming, yes, trade back.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think I think all the teams in the top 10 would love to trade back this year, but I don't know if you're going to see the value for teams trading up into those positions because there's no quarterback available.
Right. Now the Lions have 3 first-round picks? I know they have multiple first-round picks, and they have a first-round pick towards the end of the first round, which I believe was the Rams, how they got Matthew Stafford. That is where I see somebody trading down, is towards the end of the first round. But yeah, towards the top, you're probably right. I'm not sure how many teams are going to be wanting to trade up for guys in that spot when there aren't projected quarterbacks up there.
Yeah, those late first round picks, I could see teams jumping up there because there's the quarterback depth in this draft is pretty garbage. But if somebody feels like there's a quarterback that is decent and you feel that you do have a first round grade on them, I don't see that value. But if you do, getting them, the difference between getting them in pick 31, 31, or 32 versus 33, 34, or 35 is big, because you get that 5th year on option, where if they go in the second round, even by 1 pick, you don't get that 5th year option. And with a quarterback, you like to have that. It gives you that 1 more year of deciding on, are they the guy, or are we going to throw a stupid big contract towards them? It gives you one more year of team control where you're not forced into a big decision. And so I could see that being a value for teams to trade up to be able to get that extra year of control.
Right.
So I would, if they were at 7, I would say yes, trade down. At 39, unless you're going to be able to pick up 2 picks within the top 60. So if you trade 39 and then you trade down and get maybe try a couple 2 picks and get into 2 picks into that top 60 range, maybe. But otherwise, I'm probably standing pat, because I think you're going to have a good football player fall to you at 39.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that's absolutely reasonable.
Because there's no consensus really, like the guy. And the quarterback, I mean, I don't have a first round grade on any of the quarterbacks in this draft, which is crazy. But some team is going to get desperate and draft a quarterback in the first round, and it's going to push players down. So I think one of those top 7 wide receivers falls to the Bears. And, it's probably, if I had to put money down, I would guess either Chris Olave from Ohio State or Dotson from Penn State. And that gets into another topic I wanted to talk about. Is I saw some people talking on Twitter about, is it worth drafting Chris Olave so you get that synergy that Joe Burrow had with what's his name, and a wide receiver and for the Bengals, Jamar Chase. And you see that synergy they had playing together in college. Would it be worthwhile doing that with Chris Olave, or are we being copycats on that? And my whole thing on that is, if you're trading specifically to get Chris Olave because he played at Ohio State, I think that's corny and probably not going to give you the result you want. But Chris Olave is a very good football player that just ran a 4.27 or something, or 4.24.
Yeah.
Like, he's fast and he's put up big numbers in college against top talent. If he falls to you, I don't care where he went to school, I'm picking him up, and he just happens to be from Ohio State because he's a good football player. But I'm not trading draft capital in order to get him because he went to Ohio State.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of corny to be copycat like that, but if you see the real potential fit there, whatever, fine. I mean, it'd be my dream to have a Fields to whoever like Burrow does with Jamar Chase, because the Bears have something, or they don't have something, that literally everyone else seems to have. And that is a guy that's not necessarily a quarterback that can just change the game offensively. The Bears never have that guy. Look at what George Kittle can do with on the 49ers. Look at Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers, the routes he runs. Look at what Jamar Chase did last year. Look at what CeeDee Lamb has been doing so far in his career. Look at the types of things Rob Gronkowski was able to do in his career. I want a game changer, a weapon that's a game changer, not just a bunch of, they're okay. He's solid. He's right. I want a game changer, damn it.
Could Tariq Cohen be that guy?
No.
Are you saying that because of injury, because of who he is, or because of what you've seen with him being under Matt Nagy?
The guy was drafted in 2017. He hasn't played in 2 years. I like him, but if he somehow proves me wrong, I would be a very happy man. I liked him coming out. I liked the skill set he has, but the dude hasn't played in 2 years.
You know,
Why would I believe that Tariq Cohen would be that type of guy?
honestly, I mean, I don't know. This is my speculation. For a long time, I thought it was actual injury setbacks and things. I don't think so. I think it's mental. I think he's scared. I think that injury scared him, and I don't think he wants to play. Like I think it's. I don't think he has the fire in him to overcome the injury mentally, because you hear a lot of athletes talk about ACL injuries that or Achilles injuries, certain types of injuries that just you don't feel like you're the same guy. You don't feel like you can do the same things. And I can tell you, I have that same mentality now just because of my age, that there's things that I know for a fact that I could have done when I was 20 or 18 and physically, and I won't even try now because I just, in my brain, I'm like, there's no way you can do that. You're going to get hurt. And like hurdle a fence, like Flojo style, not climb it and, leap over it, but like running start, just jump it like a sprinter does hurdles. I could do it on a lower fence younger. And now I'm like, nope, I'll walk around it. And I think that's that same mentality that a lot of athletes have when they have that injury, that they just feel they can't do something anymore. And that fearlessness, along with their athletic ability, is what help make them special. And when you lose part of that, that's my fear with Tariq Cohen. He's just never going to be the same guy.
Yeah. You hear so little about him. That's the thing. You don't really hear anything about him. You forget he's even there sometimes. It just sucks because I want him to be a good football player, and I want him to be a good football player for the Bears. And if it happens, like I said, I'll be very happy. I will love to watch it, but I just can't count on it right now.
What's going to happen, right?
How can we count on it? Well, he's going to go somewhere else and become
a star.
The
Bears are going to cut him because of the salary cap. I mean, if he was still on his rookie deal, even if the injuries, you probably keep him.
Because, of course.
But he's going to say, if you cut him, I think he saves you like almost $4 million. That's a big chunk of change for a guy that hasn't played 2 years. He's going to get cut, and he's going to go somewhere and sign like a veteran minimum deal or like $1 million a year deal. And he's going to be phenomenal. And you're going to go, what the hell? What the hell?
Yep. Of course.
That's a Bears thing.
I'd fully expect that. I would fully expect that. And if Tariq Cohen surprises us this year, he's in camp, he's healthy, he's playing, he's looking good, it'll make everything even better. It really would, because having another guy like him being a reliable piece would really add a lot of importance to this team, a ton of importance, because it gives you another dynamic offensive player that can play multiple positions, running back, receiver, special teams. It would be great. I just can't count on it. It's too bad. And I don't want to sound like I'm mad at him or I'm blaming him. It's just, that's how I see the situation. I don't know if he's ever going to play again.
Yeah, it's not personal.
I really don't know. No, it's not personal at all. It's just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, so it has nothing personal. I have nothing against him. I just, my allegiance is to the Chicago Bears being good. And if he's not going to be healthy, not going to be the same player, I would rather have that $4 million of cap space.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens with him. Because like I said, you don't hear anything.
I know. I'm curious of what information is out there, because our new front office is going to have to make a decision on him. So
yeah, I mean, who knows what Robot Ryan and Baldy Matt, I don't know what to call him, was was thinking. I mean, they didn't say anything, It almost felt like they kind of danced around the questions with Tariq when they did come up, but you were never really fed any information from Pace or Nagy regarding Tariq Cohen.
Yep. It was hush hush, secret, secret, secret. And I saw a comment on Instagram or on YouTube where somebody questioned our rankings of the Bears' needs, said that they thought O-line was the most important need. That may be true. I'm not going to discount that, but the way I look at it is I feel that the Bears can realistically shuffle things around in that they have and create a makeshift offensive line that'll be great big meh. I think you bring back, and this is like a worst case scenario kind of thing. You bring Jason Peters back for one more year. You kick Tevin Jenkins over to right tackle.
What do you do with Whitey coat hair?
You move Cody Whitey coat hair to center. You kick Larry Borum in at guard. And you've got the makings of a makeshift offensive line. That line would be perfectly meh. Not good, but not terrible. It's not going to get you. I'm not saying I'm excited about it.
I don't want that.
I'm not saying I'm excited about it. I'm just saying is if you had to start a season, you literally could start a season and just shuffle some things around. But wide receiver, you have Darnell Mooney and Daz Newsome, and that's literally it. Like you can't even field a team. Like you don't have a team. You don't have a wide receiver core. You have two guys.
Feels like 2017 all over again.
Yes, and we saw how bad that was when our best receiver was a castaway from another team. Like he was not good enough to make the Chargers, and he became to our team and was our best receiver.
Yeah,
like,
Dontrell Inman.
Yes, and like that's how bad things were. We could be that. I mean, I don't think we'll be that bad because Darnell Mooney would be far superior than any of those wide receivers.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But our wide receiver, like we just don't have enough wide receivers to even assemble a wide receiver core. Like we couldn't run a 3 wide receiver set because we have 2 wide receivers. So I have that as a big one. Cornerback, we have Jalen Johnson and we have Thomas Graham, who we don't know what he is yet. And we have Kendall Vildor. And who else do we have? Is that all we have under contract?
I mean, that sounds about right. Robinson's a free agent, obviously. And I don't think he's coming back.
No. I'm saying on defensive back. We've got Jalen Johnson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking wide receiver.
We've got Jalen Johnson, Thomas Graham, Kendall Vildor, and like we have like 3 cornerbacks. Like
yeah, like, it's thin. It's thin on cornerback.
Is cornerback? We're greatly in need of better talent, and we just don't have enough to even field the defense. And wide receiver is we have one talented guy, one guy who was on our practice squad that I'm assuming is going to make the starting roster next year, and that's it. Like we don't have enough to field a full wide receiver core. So that's why I say that those are probably bigger needs, because you need talent coupled with you need bodies. Like you just don't even have bodies. And if you able in free agency snap up, second, third tier players to fill those roles, then you could be like, all right, now we have an apples to apples comparison. We have 6 wide receivers that could be our roster, and we have 6 cornerbacks that could be our roster. Now let's compare their talent levels. And then maybe at that point, offensive line is the bigger need. But the reason I rank wide receiver and cornerback so high is just the lack of talent and the lack of just warm bodies that to fill your roster.
No, I get it. Yeah,
And
no, I get it.
so that's the reason. And, you know, it's not shitting on the fact that, or anybody's opinion, or saying that O-line is not an issue, because it's clearly an issue. There's
absolutely
an
issue.
There's a lot of issues on this team. I mean, you know, we need linebackers, we need safeties, we need cornerbacks, we need wide receivers, and we may or may not need tight ends. We need offensive linemen. You know, there's a lot of talent missing from this team.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, the Bears might have to get lucky here, because you could only bring in so many people. You only have so many draft picks. You know, you don't have the most draft picks of all the teams. We know that for sure. So you might have to get lucky and pick up somebody who's kind of random and they work out. I mean, it happens every year. There are guys that come out of nowhere every single year. So the Bears might have to get lucky on some of that. They might have to get lucky on a safety. They might have to get lucky on a cornerback. They might have to get lucky on a wide receiver or an O-lineman. You know, someone that comes out of nowhere where you're not paying a ton of money or you don't spend a lot to get him and he does a really good job. You're going to have to get lucky, because you're not going to get all top tier guys at every single one of those positions. You're not going to get 2 more elite cornerbacks plus a few more elite safeties and wide receivers and O-linemen. You're just going to have to make work with what you can get.
Yeah, I mean, listen, are you going to rebuild a top flight offensive line this offseason? No. Are you going to be able to build an okay offensive line? Probably. And, you know, drafting wisely, you draft a wide receiver towards, you know, with your 2nd or 3rd round pick. And, you know, I say I'm not a draft for need guy. Like I hate drafting for need. But I'm just saying, based on the talent that's out there, you're probably going to grab a wide receiver with one of your first 2 picks, and you sign a decent free agent, and then you can fill the rest of your wide receiver core with bodies, with veteran minimum kind of guys, or, you know, $2 million a year guys. And you're like, okay, I can live with that, where we have a really solid rookie, Darnell Mooney, a decent free agent. We've actually got something we could work with. If you add a decent free agent or a top line, you know, like one of your first 2 picks at cornerback, or a decent free agent at cornerback, you pair them with Jalen Johnson, then, you know, you're like, okay, I'm still not happy with what I have at cornerback, but I can make do with this. And that's kind of where the Bears are going to have to be right now, is get the most out of the picks that they have. They're going to have to bring in a whole bunch of undrafted rookies. I think that's going to be key.
Yeah.
You're going to have to hit on some of them too.
Yep.
You have to be smart with free agency, because while you do have a decent amount of money, I think they're in the top 12 or so with cap space right now, and you can expand on that by cutting some players. But again, every time you cut a player, that opens up one more hole that you have to fill. So if you save $2 million by cutting a guy, Sure, it adds $2 million to your cap space, but then you got one more position you have to fill. So that's the Bears have the ability to expand that cap space, but they just have to make sure they use it wisely and not sign a couple of big time guys and then have to fill the rest of their holes with, scrubs.
Right, exactly. I'm going to quiz you on something really quick. Now, this is according to Spot Trek. There are 6 guys making $10 million or more dollars. At least I should say this. They're going to be 10 million plus cap hit for 2022.
For the Bears?
Yes. Who are those guys?
10 plus $1 million cap hit.
Right.
Khalil Mack.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3. Cody Whitehair.
Mm-hmm. 2 more.
Justin Fields.
Nope.
Oh no, okay. Sorry, he's
like 4.3 million cap hit.
Eddie Goldman.
Yep.
Nick Foles.
Correct. That's all 6.
Is
and then you got
Roquan's got to be
just
close
on the outside. He's
okay.
He's 9.7.
Okay, so yeah, and Whitehair might be gone. Goldman, I think, is as good as gone.
Tariq Cohen is 5.75 for the record, and Danny Trevathan is 5.7 as well.
Danny Trevathan and Tariq Cohen, I think, are going to be gone. Mario Edwards is probably gone.
4.2.
Jeremiah Etichu is probably gone.
3.1.
Nick Foles probably stays because
need a backup quarterback.
Well, because the thing is if he's what, 10, $11 million this year.
His cap hit is going to be 10.6. If you round it up, 10.7.
Yeah. So that 10.6 is his cap hit. It's not the savings you get by cutting him, because you end up, if you cut him, it's like a $3 million savings. And the way I look at it is, can you get a better backup quarterback for $3 million? Answer is probably no. There's benefits to having a veteran quarterback, especially one that was part of the last regime. You could see what worked, what didn't work, and help your rookie or your second year quarterback learn the differences between the systems. I think it's worthwhile to keep him, especially at $3 million savings. So that's why I don't think he's going anywhere.
I don't either. And I'm perfectly fine, absolutely perfectly fine with having Nick Foles as the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
It's a bit expensive, but if you make other cuts, you'll have money to work with. And
yeah, but I mean, $3 million for backup quarterback in 2022 is not that expensive. There's a lot of teams probably spending. I mean, that's what they pay. I think the Bills paid Mitchell Trubisky last year.
He'll be making less than Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Well, last year I'm saying.
So, I mean, it's like a $3 million savings. It's, I mean, unless you're desperate for that $3 million, I think it's worthwhile to keep him. I don't
think they'll necessarily be that desperate for that.
Yeah, I think it's a fair backup quarterback salary, especially considering that you're starting quarterbacks on a rookie deal. I personally would keep him unless he's being a total turd, which I don't think he is. I would probably keep him around. That would be my perception.
I don't think he was a total turd. I think he was sick of Nagy's shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you be? But it's going to be interesting to see how free agency and the draft unfold with this new front office. Because listen, for all of the terrible decisions and bad results that we saw under Ryan Pace. The one thing I can say I did appreciate is I understood how he attacked the draft and the free agency. I don't agree with necessarily the players he picked or the money he gave to them or the trades he made in the draft, but the greater concepts. And by that, I mean, is he actually went in to the draft planning to draft the best players available. And I always appreciate that. I think you get the best results when you do that. When you draft for need, you overreach, and I don't think you get the results you want. And in order to do that, to draft best player available, you can't have glaring holes on your team. So like if the draft were to happen tomorrow, the Bears would pretty much have to be drafting out of need because they don't have wide receivers, they don't have cornerbacks, and they're missing like an interior offensive line. Like that's a need. Is Ryan Pace at least went, I'm going to use free agency, plug all of these holes to allow us to draft who we want. So you always saw them pick up, even if it was that like second wave of free agency where they were, $2-3 million guys, plug them into spots. So, if you end up drafting somebody that's much better than that player, it's not the end of the world that if they beat out the person that you signed as a free agent, it's competition. But if you are forced to start the season with the player you signed in free agency, you can make do. So I did appreciate that. That makes sense to me. That it's just the contracts he threw out and the players he chose to bring in weren't the right guys. But I think the concept was fair.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like when we had a hole at tight end, like he was going out there to attack that. Like I think Ryan Pace understood the problems. He just wasn't good enough of a GM to fix them.
Right.
And
yeah. I mean,
so,
the issues are obvious. When he came in and he needed a wide receiver, he got Allen Robinson. When he needed pass rush, he got Khalil Mack and so on.
Yeah. And sometimes they worked out, like Khalil Mack and Allen Robinson for the most part have worked out.
Mm-hmm.
When he needed a tight end, he used his first draft pick, which was the second rounder, to draft a tight end. And he went out and got Jimmy Graham, and he paid way too much for him. And was Jimmy Graham a bad free agent signing? Probably, but more so because of the money he made. And then there was the poor utilization of him. But you could see he went out and he brought in a whole bunch of tight ends to solve the problem. So he used free agency and the draft to fix it. He tries to fix it through free agency and the draft. And I appreciate that. So you go into the draft knowing, going into the draft and knowing you could start the season that day without those draft picks because you have enough players to fill your needs makes the draft a lot easier because you're not relying on any, shit, we're drafting 10th and we need a quarterback. Please, please, please let a quarterback fall to us. Like you're not waiting on that. You're able to attack the draft and, either move up to get a guy that you really want or move back if he's not there and collect picks. It's just the problem was that Ryan Pace always was attacking and never collecting draft picks and picked some of the wrong guys. And you end up when you trade up and draft the wrong guy, you really set yourself up in a bad spot. If you trade up and you get the right guy, you don't ever question the trade up. Does anybody question the draft capital that the Kansas City Chiefs gave up to draft Patrick Mahomes?
No.
Can you tell me what the draft picks were that they gave up to get Patrick Mahomes?
No.
But can you tell me the picks that the Bears gave up to move up to get Mitchell Trubisky?
Yes, I can.
The reason why is because Mitchell Trubisky didn't work and Patrick Mahomes did. And so that's kind of the thing is, if you trade draft capital and you get a superstar, you don't care, So I do appreciate the methodology that Ryan Pace applied. It's just he did it poorly. So I guess my long way of saying is it's going to be interesting to see how this new front office staff attacks free agency and attacks the draft, because we've seen the same pattern for 7 years, and I literally have no clue how this is going to work now with this new regime.
No, we don't, and we got to just make sure it's better. Putting Ryan Pace behind us and Ryan Poles in the future, you just hope the results are better, the approach is better, the evaluation is better, and the handling of the cap is better. That's got to be a lot better going forward.
The cap is the big one. Oh, oof.
Yeah.
But one last thing I wanted to say about the Bears, and it's fairly quick, is, if you asked me 2 months ago, will Allen Robinson be back? Will Akeem Hicks be back? And I would have laughed and said 0% chance. But as the days grow closer to the new NFL season, the 2022 season, I think the odds that one or both of those players possibly returning grows. And the reason is Akeem Hicks has got to be looking at it as there's a reason guys like stability. Guys like to play in the same place for the most part. Akeem Hicks, I think, was genuine when he said he would like to finish his career as a Chicago Bear.
I do too.
But I don't think he wanted to play for the previous regime. Same thing with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson wants to get paid. I don't think the market is going to be there for Allen Robinson that Allen Robinson thinks will be there, for partly the same reasons I talked about Amari Cooper. There's a lot of guys available in free agency, and the draft picks there's a plethora of them, of top guys in the draft. And Allen Robinson is coming off of a bad season. So I don't think the market is going to be where Allen Robinson would like it to be. But because all of the bad blood that Allen Robinson had with the past regime, right or wrong, is not there anymore. When you have new management and that GM comes to you and talks to you and says, hey, listen, if I'm Ryan Poles, even if I have no interest in bringing Allen Robinson back, I'm probably bringing him in right away saying, listen, I'm trying to, I was not here. I only pick up what I heard and what I read. And it seems like there was bad blood here. Can you tell me about it? I'm trying to understand. I want the big picture of what was going on here because I want things to be better. And even if you have no interest in re-signing him, I think there's a benefit in learning where there was friction. Maybe it was all on Allen Robinson. Maybe Allen Robinson is a big turd and was a thorn in everybody's side. But maybe there was the way that the front office and the management and the coaching staff treated him was shitty, and he had a reason to be upset. Or maybe there's some sort of in the middle combination, but finding out like, hey, what can we do to make this better? If not with you going forward. And I think that, the changing of the guard and having a new offensive mind and at your offensive coordinator position would make him willing to come back. Granted that they're willing to be one of the higher payers for him, but I think that door is open for both players. Is it do I consider it likely? No, but I would say it went from 0% to 10 to 15%.
There's a chance. Yeah. I mean, it went from having like no chance to there being a chance. Even if it's small, it's a chance. I completely agree with you because, like you said, if you'd asked me even just a few weeks ago, I would have felt pretty different. But the more you hear about how things were running under Nagy and Pace, the more you kind of understood some of Allen Robinson's, the way he carried himself. And, maybe that's enough for him to come back, is a new regime change with a new philosophy and a new way of doing things. Again, I'm not banking on Allen Robinson coming back by any means. I still think it's pretty unlikely he himself comes back. If I had to bet on who is more likely, Hicks or Robinson, I would definitely say Hicks. But I think for me, Allen Robinson, it went from like 0% to like 1 or 2%. Not much at all, but a chance versus no chance whatsoever.
Yeah, and even if you're Ryan Poles and Luke Getsy, you talk to him, and if nothing else, it makes you look better to other potential free agent signings because these guys talk. And if Allen Robinson is just shitting all over, don't go to the Bears if you're a wide receiver, blah, blah, blah. If you go in there and talk to him, like, hey, listen, nobody was happy with the way last year turned out. I know you weren't happy with the number of targets, the number of catches. You feel you're a better player than that. Everybody was hoping for more than that. What happened behind the scenes that created that situation. And, like he clearly was mad, but how do you be mad when all the people that you were mad at got fired and the new people are willing to talk to you? Like that grudge goes away. You don't have a grudge against the whole Bears organization because it was clearly the front office and the coaching staff were all gone. So if I'm him, if I'm the Bears, I do that. Try to get insight on what the hell happened, where he saw faults, get some more insight, and then you leave him feeling better about things that he felt heard. And when other people are like, what was it like with the Bears? The new people are cool. It goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
But I kind of want to move on to the baseball lockout.
Not looking good, my friend. Not looking good.
I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, we all saw this coming during the season. I think we all saw this coming, that there was not going to be a smooth negotiation.
No, we knew this was going to get ugly.
But the thing is, I don't know how I didn't see this coming even further, because Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, is not a lifelong baseball guy.
No.
He's a union busting lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So when baseball brought him in to work for, they originally brought him in as a consulting lawyer during a labor dispute. And then they brought him in to the fold. Like, we should have all seen that coming, that this was a long game, that the owners were playing, that eventually, because, not for nothing, the Major League Baseball Players Association was at one point one of the strongest unions in the United States. Like, not just sports, it was a strong union. And I think the owners went, you know what? How the heck are we going to break the union? And they played a long game. And here we are with Rob Manfred versus the union. And he locked them out before they could strike. And he's twisting the knobs. And I think the leverage right now is with the owners. Number one, financially, they can all withstand this more so than a lot of players. You look at the way this is set up, that if like the owners don't make nearly as much money in April baseball as they do in postseason baseball, and if they're expanding the postseason, they're going to be playing more postseason games where you're making more television money, you're making more concession money, you're making more ticket money. And so
yeah, it's all prioritizing revenue. It's all trying to find ways to bring in the revenue. And it's no surprise that revenue is at its lowest in April because the weather is still bad in many places. It's early in the season. And when you start the season, you know, you have 161 games to go after opening day. So yeah, I mean, it should be no surprise that they're trying to push this. Unfortunately, they're just making it so damn difficult. And I mean, you know, you look at a lot of the issues here. I mean, it's more than just a few things. It's so many different things. And the thing is, baseball is going to be a very different game when it does come back, because we are talking more than just expanded playoffs to maximize revenue. We're talking about banning shifts. We're talking about implementing pitch clocks. We're talking about making the bases bigger come 2023.
Robot umpires.
I think they voted down that, but
the players voted that down. The owners want it.
Yes, you're right.
So it's until both sides agree, it's still on the table. So yeah, you're right. There's huge overhauls. Universal DH that's already agreed upon.
And I mean, that was a long time coming. We'll make that one fair. That was a long time coming.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just saying it's going to be a difference.
Yes, you're right.
And I'm not, you know, right or wrong. I'm not going to argue that, but just saying it's different. It's going to be different having a DH in the National League. And you know, the owners have the leverage right now because they're saying, sure, if you want to get back to work, agree to our terms. And if you don't, we'll keep this lockout going. And the thing is, they are waiting this out, because if they don't have April baseball, they're still getting all of the money from their TV deals.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care.
The TV contracts, it has to be like a fairly decent amount of games that they lose in order for the stations that are the television networks to give money back. So they're getting paid for TV rights, and they're not paying the salary of those players for those games, because the players aren't going to get paid if they're not playing. So it's like a win-win for the owners. They're making money from a game that's not being played, and they're not paying anybody to play it. So what reason do they have to make this go faster?
I mean, look at the fact that they took this long to just get negotiations going again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what bothers me more than anything. They took this long. They want to talk about negotiating good faith. And, you know, I'm frustrated by the fact that there was so much shooting themselves in the foot and then them being surprised why the other side didn't like it. I mean, when they tried to make the proposal of cutting minor league jobs, what on earth made them think that that was a good idea or that was going to get agreed upon?
I mean, here's kind of a summary a fairly detailed summary, but a summary of where things are at with the gaps. So minimum salary for a player, Major League Baseball is offering for this coming year, the minimum salary being $700,000 and increasing to $740,000 a year by 2026. So incremental increase.
Because of inflation. That's which is a big thing to keep in mind.
The Players Association wants the minimum salary next year to be $725,000 and go to $745,000 the year after, $765,000 the year after, and then have a consumer price index increase. So whatever inflation increase, go up that percent beyond. So I don't think they're terribly far off on that. So right now it would be $25,000 a year as the minimum salary. I think that is, there's comparable middle ground there on that one.
I agree.
Then competitive balance tax. So baseball wants the threshold to be $220 million and then slowly move up to $230 million by 2026. The Players Association wants it to be 238 and then move up to 263 by 2026. So right now, an $18 million gap going to a $33 million gap in a couple of years. That is a biggie, I think, because baseball, the owners essentially want a salary cap, because then that allows them to make more profit. There's a cap. Can't spend beyond it. So that's why they'll never get an actual quote cap into this agreement. The Players Association just won't go for it, but they're trying to do things like, we'll take away draft picks. We'll have higher fines for going over it. And so essentially a cap without it calling it a cap.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a lot harder than what the luxury tax currently does.
Right. So that the competitive balance tax, I think, is a fairly significant gap for them to close.
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball is proposing eliminating draft pick forfeiture if you sign a free agent. I'm okay with that one.
Me too.
I don't know where the Players Association stands on that one, but I would assume they would be okay with that unless it's a concession for giving up something else.
Right.
Another big one, the pre-arbitration bonus pool.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
So Major League Baseball is offering a $30 million pool with 0 increases throughout this CBA. So 5-year agreement. Major League Baseball's Players Association. So the players want an $80 million pool that has a $5 million annual increase for the life of this CBA. That's a big gap.
Yeah, that's big.
Service time manipulation. It seems like both sides are willing to negotiate on this one.
And going into this next CBA, that was a big topic of conversation, because you could go back to Chris Bryant. Remember, he was held back a few weeks in 2015 because of service time manipulation, and the grievance was filed.
Yeah. So this one's hard one to quantify because it's not financial, where you can put apples to apples like you can with some of the other disagreements. But Major League Baseball is offering 2 draft picks within the player's first 3 years if he finishes in the top 3 in Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, or MVP voting. And a player finishing first or second in Rookie of the Year voting would get a full year of service time. So if you're really good, they can't manipulate that. And Major League Baseball is saying that they want a full service time in the rookie season. If a position player finishes in the top 5 for their position in WAR, and that's infielders, catchers, and DHs, and outfielders, relief pitchers, and starting pitchers finishing in the top 15 in WAR. So there's definitely some room to negotiate there. And then both sides seem to want to move on anti-tanking measures. So
yeah.
I have a feeling that there's no way around. We'll have a lottery for draft picks. Just depends on the level. So baseball's suggesting a lottery for the top 5 picks, and Major League Baseball is saying for the top 6. For all the teams that don't make the playoffs.
Which, if MLB gets their way, will only be about half the teams in baseball.
But they're, essentially Major League Baseball Players Association is doing what the NBA does, where the worst teams have the best odds to get the number 1 pick, but they won't.
You're not guaranteed to get it.
Yeah, but a team that just missed the playoffs still has a chance to get that number 1 overall pick.
Oh, could you imagine? Imagine the St. Louis Cardinals having one like random off year where they only win like 78 games. So 78 is horrific for the Cardinals, but compared to many other teams, it's like not as horrific for like, teams like Baltimore that can't even win 60 games, or other rebuilding teams like the Pirates who win like upper 50s, lower 60s games. Imagine they win like 78 games one bad year, and then they get like the first pick.
That would totally be the way that worked.
Right.
The owners want a 14-team playoff.
That's too much.
I agree.
That's just too much. I don't want to watch a 79-80 win team in the postseason. And yes, I will party when the 79 win Cubs make the postseason.
Listen, if they're going to expand the playoffs, they need, if they're going to, it sounds like they're going to. I think there's going to be an expansion no matter what. It's just the level of expansion. They need to do something where it incentivizes teams to be good in the regular season. If you win 100 games, you shouldn't be penalized by having to play, against the team where it's a luck of the draw. Because any baseball game it's not like the NFL where the good team usually beats the bad team. Sure, there's a chance for an upset, but typically the better team wins. But there's, baseball, like there's a lot of luck that goes into it. It's, where a really good hitter only gets a hit 1 out of every 3 times at bat. Weird stuff happens. So like, why, are you going to win 100 games and then have to play a team that wins 75 games in the playoffs and potentially lose and go home? So there should be some incentive for being good, whether that be a first round bye or, if like you have all home games that first series.
Yeah, and like a first round bye, you already kind of have that with the wild card round. But let's say you expand the wild card round a little bit and make it a 3-game series instead of a one and done single game playoff. Then that first round bye does come a little more rewarding. Though one can't help but wonder, if you get a first round bye, so to speak, and you're off more days than you normally were before the wild card round, would that rest kind of being out of sync? How would that affect things? Though, if you end up playing a 3-game first round, that's 3 starting pitchers you've already gone through. So you can look at it from a lot of perspectives.
Right. Baseball wants to put advertising on the uniforms and the helmets.
Now, you got to look at what's going to be the extent of that. Are we talking like European hockey where it's just, you can't even tell what uniform it is anymore? It's just
NASCAR.
all ads. Or NASCAR. Yeah, that's a good example too. Or NASCAR. I mean, think about like those NASCAR jackets. That's going to be the managers in the dugout and the coaches wearing those types of things. Is
Ricky
it going
Bobby.
to be, is it going to be like a patch on the, I mean, if it's like a patch or two on a shoulder, I could live with that. A patch or two on the helmet or the hat, I could live with that. I would just hate for these uniforms to be completely covered in ads, because baseball uniforms are probably the most historic uniforms in existence in America. I mean, think about more than just like the Cubs here or the White Sox. You know, their uniforms are historic. Go beyond that. The Dodgers have had virtually the same uniform their entire existence. The Giants have had their same uniform, the Yankee pinstripes, the Red Sox uniforms, even like the Baltimore uniforms that have that classic type look. Like that is one of the things that makes baseball so aesthetically pleasing, are those classic uniforms. And to just get rid of all that for the sake of advertising, no. It's gross.
And then both sides agreed to limiting the number of options a player has within a season. So I'm okay with that one. And then the last one seems to be the rule changes. Baseball wants the ability to just change rules as they feel is needed. And
home runs are going to be ground rule doubles now.
And they want that leeway to just be able to do that. The Players Association, they want ability to veto, and the players vetoed a robot strike zone. I'm curious to hear the rationale.
I'm curious about that one too, because don't they get frustrated with calls that are missed?
Yes. So I'm curious at that one. It's weird to me that the owners want it and the players don't. So I'm curious to hear more about that one.
Me too.
The pitch clock, I'm okay with it if the pitch clock is not a weird thing that they just post on this. Like it just sort of becomes, you know how there's like a sort of pitch clock on free throws in the NBA.
Right.
And it's not really like, oh, hey, there's a clock. It's not like, the play clock in the NFL where somebody's actively watching it and there's a penalty. I want it to just that become an organic development where pitchers just learn to be faster.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you want it to be, like you said, organic's a good way to put it. You want it to be that to the point where you don't really even notice it that much.
Yes. And it be, all right, well, the major league is doing this. The college is doing it. The minors are doing it. And then, so it just trickles down to little league where you're just like, okay, you go out there and pitch and it just, so then the next generations just becomes second nature of, hey, we don't dawdle up the mound. We just go up there and get baseball done, because I love baseball, but I don't want to watch 4-hour baseball games.
No, I mean, you want to keep the pace moving at a nice, you definitely do. And it's not always easy to get that. I'm still not like clamoring for a pitch clock or begging for one, but if it happens and I end up just getting used to it, then so be it, I guess.
Yeah, it's, but I mean, I agree that they do need to do something with it. Like part of the reason is hockey is great. That game flies through, and for the most part, hockey games, you know what time they're going to be over based on what time they start. They're
when the Blackhawks play, it's over the second the puck is dropped.
Heyo. But I mean, really, it's the pace of play is fast. They minimize stoppages, time stoppages. and you just sort of know, and it goes by fairly quickly. And baseball has been getting longer and longer. So you need to rein that back in, especially when you're losing some of the younger fans. You got to figure out how to make them come back. And I think, not having 4-hour games on a random Tuesday night is gonna help. So I'm okay to a degree with the pitch clock, as long as they don't get overbearing with it and it doesn't become a thing.
Right.
Making bigger bases, I guess I'm okay with that. I don't really care.
I mean, if it's like a minimal increase, probably won't even notice. I just want to know how big.
I mean, I don't know why you'd make the other bases bigger, but first base, I like when they have that like extra, like that wide first base. So
they do it in softball.
Yeah. So you don't have the first baseman and the runner colliding. They have room to be able to field, to touch the bag, and the runner still has room to play that. So I think that's a good safety rule, but I don't know why you would want to increase second or third base size.
Yeah, I don't get that. I'd be okay if they did the softball thing where you have the base that you step on and then the other base right next to it at first. Like that wouldn't bother me whatsoever.
No.
But I feel like the other bases you don't really need. It doesn't. I don't see why.
And eliminating the shift, I'm okay. I don't want to completely eliminate defensive positioning, but when they have those like ultra shifts, I mean, I wish players would just learn to hit to the opposite field.
You have a whole field open.
Like
adjust.
Like that would be my dream, to get rid of the shift. So I don't like the shift, but I understand why they do it. And I don't like implementing rules to make a defense stop doing something. I want players to just be better. Like if you physically just can't hit it to the opposite field, then you're not as good of a baseball player as you should be. And, and if you keep getting into shifts, then, well, that's your fault, But
I say if you're a player on the field, you should be able to go wherever you want. You might be designated a spot, but nobody's drawing lines. No one's putting a buzz collar on you. If you feel like your coaching feels like you need to be positioned in a certain spot for a certain batter, you should be able to do it.
I just hope if they get rid of shifts, which sounds like it's probably going to happen, that they don't go so bad. Whereas, like, all right, what if you bring in one of your outfielders in to be that extra infielder and then have two outfielders? Or you have if you're shifting with a lefty and you have your, sure, okay, you can't bring your shortstop all the way over to, the first base side of second base. And then, if they're taking that away, can you at least bring in, your right fielder in to play a deep second and shift your center fielder and your left fielder over? Can you do that? Like, I want there to be some degree of playing the numbers of where players hit the baseball. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Like, if they're going to get rid of the ultra shifts, where they're just completely stacking everybody on one side of the field, which sounds like it's going to happen, are you at least going to allow them some flexibility to do something other than Shortstop stands here. The second baseman stands here. That is the rules.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, because what do you do if you quote unquote shift too much? What are they going to do to you? What's the penalty for that? How do you enforce that?
I don't know. I have no idea how you enforce that. And I just saw this news that apparently the Ricketts family, who was so broke and they had biblical losses from during COVID, are
trying to buy Chelsea, baby.
Are trying to purchase a soccer franchise for billions of dollars. So they can't be that broke.
Also, they're building their sports book.
Like, is when the Ricketts family tells you there was biblical losses, don't believe a word they say unless they open their books.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah, the NFL, the way their salary structure or their salary cap works is based on revenue. The books are open. You know what the numbers are. And that is how there's a formula. It's open. Baseball is a secret thing. They don't tell you what's going on. Nobody financially knows what baseball teams make. And so whenever they tell you that there's big losses and it magically happens right before a collective bargaining agreement, don't believe them. They're lying to you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of fans on the owner's sides these days.
I hope not. I don't really want to talk Blackhawks.
No, they suck.
They suck. But we do have the trade deadline coming up. I am curious of, now that we have a permanent, we have an official non-interim general manager. What's he going to do?
I don't know.
Are Taves and Kane going to be willing to waive their no movement clauses?
My bet is that they're not going anywhere. Personally, I mean, I think they should unload what they can. I really do. I think they really need to hit a hard reset here. But if I'm a betting man, I don't think they're going anywhere. And here's the thing. I don't think Taves has much value right now, unfortunately.
No, but if you could dump that salary off the book somehow.
Who's going to take that?
I don't know.
No one's going to take that.
My fear is that they just don't have anybody that'll bring you a return. Like Marc-Andre Fleury, at what point do you go, we're better off just keeping him with us for the rest of the year, so we have a grown-up playing a goalie. Like we don't have a first rounder, so what's the purpose of tanking?
There isn't. You can't tank.
Yeah, so at least if you keep Marc-Andre Fleury around, you stay in more games, and it keeps the fans that are coming to the games happier. If you trade them away and you start just really the train goes right off the tracks, you're gonna have even more upset of fan base. You're gonna have less turnout at the stadium, and you're not reaping any sort of benefit. I think you really got to define what that line is. At what point is it worth trading him, and are you going to get that level? If somebody offers you like a 3rd round pick for him, is it worth trading?
I mean, either you trade. I mean, this season doesn't matter. It flat doesn't matter. Marc-Andre Fleury, play or not, they suck. They're terrible. I mean, they just got killed again today by the Lightning. I mean, they got embarrassed today by the Lightning. And the Blackhawks played good for their standards, but they still got killed after losing in Philadelphia, where a possible rally was killed by multiple too many men on the ice penalties. It's if you don't trade what you can for what you can, it really just doesn't matter at this point.
I just don't know how many trades you're actually going to see.
I mean, there's not much to trade. That's the thing. And you know what? I like Marc-Andre Fleury, but take what you can get for him. That's what I say.
And that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, honestly, if it's not nailed down, I dump him, dump everybody. You know, like I honestly dump. There's nobody on this team probably that I'm like, oh nope, you got to keep him.
No, of course not. I mean, DeBrincat's kind of the guy you're building around.
But you know, how long is your rebuild going to take versus what kind of contract you're going to have to give him and what age is he going to be at?
Right. No, you're right. You're right. I mean, he's not old, but he's been around a few years.
Yeah. So it's, you know, what is he like 20, 26, 27? Let me see. How old is Alex DeBrincat? Oh, he's only 24.
He's not that old, but this rebuild could be a while.
It could be a while. Maybe
could be a while.
Maybe that changes things. But I mean, Kane is 33. He is not going to factor into this next good team.
Nope.
So at this point, if he's willing to move his or waive his no trade clause, do you move a Patrick Kane?
He's got to waive his no trade clause first. He seems to want to stay here, but I think you try to do everything you can.
I mean, Kirby Doc is not the player that you were hoping he'd be right now.
They messed up his development big time. I blame the franchise more than him. I know he's got to take responsibility for his own play, but they really loused that up. Just more the development of this franchise has just been so ineffective.
Yep. That has been, I mean, it's been embarrassingly bad.
Yeah. You ain't kidding.
Do you trade Seth Jones?
How many years left?
9, 12, 17. I don't know, a lot.
1 million.
That would be hilarious if they traded him, though.
There's no way. There's no way.
Where's Dale Talon?
Dale, we need you.
We need you to bail us out one more time. So I just, it's just embarrassing to watch. I mean, Stan Bowman royally screwed this team.
Yep, he did. He did.
So what was the trade deadline? Like the 18th of this month or something?
It's coming up. It's pretty cool. It's coming up pretty quickly.
Yeah. So a couple weeks and then we got that. So
it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. Maybe next week we could talk a little more specifics about that. But I just don't have it in me to talk Blackhawks right now.
No.
But Bulls.
Bulls.
I mean, they're going through a rough stretch, which we knew. I think that loss to Atlanta was
that hurt. That was a gut punch. Hell, I'd argue even against Milwaukee, you didn't have as high expectations against Milwaukee, but it still hurt. But no, you're absolutely the one in Atlanta. That was the game you had to win.
I said that, you know, before going into the stretch, you got to win both of those games against Atlanta to buoy you, because you're going to have some real tough games before you get everybody back. And, you know, it just, that loss, I mean, it's not devastating. I mean, they're still going to go to the postseason. It's just to maintain as one of the top teams in the East record wise, that one hurt.
Yeah, it did.
You know, and the Bucks game sucked. And, you know, it did remind us that Giannis is really good. And he really took over that fourth quarter. But, you know, obviously, if you're the Bulls, you're missing Alex Caruso, you're missing Lonzo Ball, you're missing Patrick Williams. And that's a lot. That's a lot to be missing. And, you know, it does make you realize that Zach LaVine is very good. DeMar DeRozan is very good. They're both upper echelon players, but they're not Giannis.
Nope, they're not. And they're not Joel Embiid either.
Yeah.
And they're not Steph Curry.
Yep. And that's the difference. Those are those two guys. And this is not a knock. This is not a knock on Zach. This is not a knock on DeMar. Both phenomenal basketball players. They are just not the elite players.
No. And you know what? If this season ends up being a big stepping stone, great. Fine. Because injuries or not, I mean, I think the Bulls have a really nice core here fully healthy when you have Caruso and when you have Lonzo Ball. But the thing is that you're not at that level yet. You're not at the level of the Suns, the Bucks, the Brooklyn Nets, the Golden State Warriors. You're not at that level at all. You're just not. And I don't want to say at all, but you're not quite there. I mean, you're inching your way closer. You have talent. You just have to get to that spot.
And the Memphis game was frustrating because I thought they had that one. It was tough.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to pull that out. And you had DeMar miss a mid-range jumper, which, you know, like, should you be annoyed that he misses a mid-range jumper because everybody misses shots? But like, that's like, he's like a robot with that shot and he missed one. There was a missed foul and there was just a couple of little things that went wrong right down the stretch. And John Morant is an emerging superstar. And you know, that one was a tough one too. So, you know, of these losses, the Memphis one was tough. Miami kicked your ass. Atlanta one was tough. Milwaukee one was tough. And then tomorrow you got the 76ers. That one's going to be tough. You got to beat Detroit. You got to beat Cleveland. You got to beat Sacramento. You got to win those games. Those are just musts because you got Phoenix coming up. You got the Bucks coming up again. You know, you got Miami coming up again. You've got to pad this record because you're not in danger of not making the playoffs, but we're looking at seeding at this point.
Right, exactly. And I think the chances of them getting the number one seed are low, very, very low to pretty much not happening at this point.
Yeah, they're 3.5 games out of it right now. I think the Heat probably are getting to the point where it's almost cruise control, even though the Bucks and the 76ers are. I think the Bulls can probably hang on to that 4th seed. I know the Celtics are playing well. I think the Bulls can hang on to that 4th seed, which is not terrible. I don't think they fall as low as the Cavs, but I think 4 is probably realistic for them to hang on to. That's where they're at right now. They're a half game behind Milwaukee. But I think that's realistic.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know, especially let's see that tomorrow's game is going to be tough against the 76ers. I don't know how. I don't see you winning that one, but the next one against Detroit, that should be a gimme.
Should be.
Let's see. I lost my place. Cleveland should win. Sacramento, you should win. Utah is going to be tough. Phoenix, tough. Should beat Toronto. At Milwaukee, it's a tough one. Should beat New Orleans. Should beat Cleveland. Should beat the Knicks. Should beat Washington.
Cleveland.
I think you should.
Cleveland. I don't know.
You should beat Cleveland.
I don't know. I think they're better than us right now. They are not the best matchup for the Bulls.
I mean, I still think you should beat them.
I don't know.
I mean, we played them just a couple weeks ago and won by double-digit points.
I don't know. I think that team flies under the radar.
And we beat them double-digit points without Levine. So I think we can beat them. Knicks we should beat. Washington, Clippers, Miami, and back-to-back with Miami, Milwaukee, and Boston is going to be tough. So there's a stretch. You gotta beat the teams that are right below you or right with you. So you gotta if you can't beat the Bucks, you gotta beat the Cavs. Like, and, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't be losing. You can't be losing to, every team that's decent.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get back on track here. I mean, it's been a very tough spot. I didn't expect them to win all these games, but you've kind of been humbled a little bit and you've lost some really tough ones. I mean, the one against Memphis, that was kind of a taste of some of their struggles coming through the next few games. The damn rebounding, man, driving me nuts. Vooch has got to, Vooch is just so hot and cold out there. Some nights he looks good, some nights he doesn't. You're not getting the rebounds that you're supposed to be getting as a team, not just Vooch. I don't want to single him out. You're not getting the rebounds, period. You got to get those. That has been a killer in these games.
Yep. But it's if then this is a big if. I mean, a big old if. If they're able to pull this one out against the 76ers tomorrow, I think that sets a good tone. But it's a tall order. Embiid just beats you like a rented stepchild.
Yeah, he does. We haven't beaten him yet.
Oh man. But I still think holding on to the 4th seed is very realistic. And if that's the case, that's still better than we had expectations for going into the season.
Right. I mean, in my opinion, this team was never going to be championship. I mean, you want them to be championship caliber. There was a time where you thought, oh, maybe, but realistically, you got to go back and be realistic. It was probably never quite yet right to be a championship winner, but you get to the playoffs, you get some experience, you continue to build on what you have already. It's not like this is one and done. Then you take this as a big first step. I mean, that's how you want to take this. It stinks seeing this kind of just unravel here the past week or so.
Yeah. And, I think with a Billy Donovan team, you're not going to bottom out. You're going to rally. You got some professionals on this team. You're going to play tough. You're going to start getting guys healthy. I mean, Caruso's got to be coming back soon, right? Let's see if I see any news. Alex Caruso will need to be checked out by a doctor again before he's cleared for contact. Caruso, Ball, and Patrick Williams are all doing individual workouts, non-contact currently.
So well, it's you still got a road ahead, but it's taking it step by step.
Let's see. Caruso, Ball, and Williams will all travel to Philadelphia tomorrow with the team. So
all right,
we're getting close.
Yep. I mean, they need him more than ever. That's for sure. I mean, Lonzo Ball, he gives you the combination of scoring. He's been much better at 3-point shooting this year and his defense. And then obviously Caruso getting more defense there and then getting Patrick Williams with more size. I mean, those are things right there you want to see more of. You need more defense, you need more size, and they're just so big in bringing that.
Oh my God. Somebody tweeted out a picture of Michael Jordan smoking a cigar, sitting in the locker room, holding a cigar or smoking a cigar with a baseball bat. And it said Alex Caruso waiting for Grayson Allen in the locker room.
Literally just saw that tweet from Bleacher Nation Bulls.
Oh, that is too good.
I love it. That's a great picture of MJ with that bat.
Oh, I know. That one, is right up there with the Bo Jackson, where he's got the shoulder pads and the baseball bat, behind his head. That's a good one too. Like those are two of my iconic sports pictures.
Yeah, I want that like as a big poster, like just have an entire wall of just that picture of MJ.
I've got this poster that I've had forever, and it's Michael Jordan with his outstretched arms. So it's a very thin poster, but it's like, I don't know, like 8 feet wide, because it's arms extended, palming 2 basketballs. And I have nowhere to put it because it is such a weird size and it's so big. There's like nowhere to put it. So it just rolled up in a tube in my basement, being sad.
Yeah, I have an MJ poster that's rolled up too that I need to get out. It's sitting in one of my drawers. I need to get a frame for it.
I remember when I was a kid, like when Shaq first came in the league, loved Shaq. Like I had all kinds of Shaq stuff in my house. And somebody gave me a Shaq life-size cutout, the cardboard cutout from, I don't know where it was from. Somebody gave it to me, and it's like 7'4" or 5 or whatever he is. And I had it in my room. And if I left the door open to my room, like you could see it when you were coming down the stairs from upstairs. And if my dad was ever coming down in the middle of the night, the way that like the outside, like the moonlight and the lamp, like the outside light would shine in, you could see the cutout in my room. So when you go down the stairs, like my dad would always freak out because there was like a giant black man standing right in the doorway. And he was like, I hate that thing. Get that thing out of my house.
Well, it was funny because there was a store by me on Spring Road that I would walk by a lot, and it had like this big cardboard cutout of like a plumber. And every time I passed by that window, there was just this guy just staring, smiling, and it would always make me jump. It was so funny. I always thought that was a real guy for like a second. I'm like, oh, it's just that cardboard cutout of the plumber.
Oh man. I still wish I had a Jordan life-size cutout, a Shaq one, and what was the other one? I had a third.
Oh, my
one.
brother had a Sammy Sosa one for a bit.
Yeah, like they're weird. Like Like I don't know what you do with them, but I had them in my room. I like my room was just like sportsed everywhere, like sportsed out. I had built like I had all these like, remember starting lineup figures? You probably don't remember them. They were like little action figures of sports players. And I had like all my favorite basketball players. So I had like a Dominique Wilkins and a Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And I had built like a basketball court for them out of like scrap wood. So like I made a base and I used power tools and put it all together and sanded it down. And then I put like a varnish on it. So it was like like the color of like the floor at where the Celtics play. And I drilled holes and put like dowels in there to be like the rims for the basketball hoop, and made hoops. And it was like the size for the the starting lineup figures. And like that was like just sat in the middle of my room. And I just had sports stuff everywhere. And when my dad moved, I think a lot of it got thrown away. But man, that's what I lived for when I was a kid. It just, I lived in the middle of nowhere. So like that's what you did when you had nothing else to do and nowhere to go. Put sports stuff up in your room.
Hey, it's fun hobby, fun stuff you can collect and put up.
Yeah. Was there anything else you want to talk about?
No, but as we sign off, I just want to give a shout out to Big Ten champs Illini. They just clinched their win over the Buckeyes. Really kind of excruciatingly painful game, but when you pull out the victory, makes that pain go away. Really awesome to see Champaign lit with all the confetti and the storming of the court. So good job, Illini. Not sure they're going to go very far in the tournament, but hell, first time they've won that trophy since 2005.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also want to give a shout out to our friend Big Dave.
Yes.
So Dave left Lockdown Bulls and moved on to a new sports outlet that's coming to Chicago, and there's some big names associated with it. Like Olin Kreutz is doing the Bears podcast with this network. So there's some cool news, but yeah, Dave is moving on to bigger things, and I'm proud of him. Super excited.
Yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to my buddies who are also involved with that. Cody, Corey, Jared, they're three followers of mine on Twitter. Very happy for you guys as well, including Big Dave. And by the way, I just got my ball sweater in the mail, so I'm going to wear that to work tomorrow as it starts snowing. It's the perfect day to wear my ball sweater. So yeah, congrats to Big Dave and all the other friends that are part of that. Looks like some really fun content that's going to be there for Chicago fans. I'm looking forward to watching it and observing it. So yeah, it's great for the fans. It's great for the people, and we'll have to have Big Dave back on soon.
Yeah. So the new podcast is going to be Big Dave and Matt Peck.
Also Matt, he's a great guy too. You got to give a shout out to Matt. I've interacted with him on Twitter. He's a great guy as well.
Yeah, I've got to meet him a couple times in person. Really nice guy. And then also Will Gottlieb. So that's going to be a great show.
Absolutely.
So yeah, proud of my guy, and I'm literally wearing my ball sweatshirt right now. So shout out. And I texted Big Dave, but I can't remember if I said it on this show, but I was out and I ran into people that recognized the sweatshirt and knew ball, and they were like, "Do you know Big Dave?" And so that was cool. But yeah, so proud of Dave, and the guy deserves all of the accolades and success and opportunities that he's been given and more.
Absolutely. He's worked hard. He deserves it. He's a great personality, a great guy. He's so knowledgeable too. I mean, if I ever want to just get an inside scoop or just really good analysis on the Bulls. Big Dave is one of those guys I go to.
Absolutely. So proud of our dude. But that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down